We'd like to welcome everybody to the Josh and John Show. I'm Josh.
I'm John.
And now, it's time for the Josh and John Show.
And today we have, of course, another bevy of topics for all our listeners out there. Mm-hmm. But we'd like to start the first topic off, kind of touching on the last thing we talked about with the whole NSA leak. But Today we want to focus specifically on the leaker, the whistleblower himself, one Edward Snowden.
The bad guy.
The bad guy.
Or is he the bad guy?
Or is he the bad guy? And that's exactly what we're going to attack today. So as you know, Edward Snowden was a contractor for the NSA, and he basically exposed the NSA international and domestic spying program. You know, everyone, the government's listening in on all our conversations and all that scary stuff.
Hopefully they're listening into this show.
I know, we could use the hits on our YouTube.
Yeah.
But what I want to know is, or what I've been debating with myself and with others, and what we're going to talk about today specifically is Edward Snowden. Did he do the right thing? Did he do the wrong thing? Is he a traitor?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we spoke about this earlier. I think first and foremost, he is a traitor. I mean, he is guilty of that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, is it a matter of, is he a traitor, or did he do the right thing in his position to protect citizens? You know what I mean? I think that's kind of where the debate goes between, whether he did something wrong or didn't. I think he did something wrong, but is it okay?
Right, because in the eyes of the law, he violated the law. And, he's working for the NSA, which is a secretive, spy organization, kind of like the CIA, just has a slightly different role, but essentially the same role.
Right.
And if you break the rules in the spy world, you're a traitor.
Right.
And what they put as the sentencing for traitors tends to be death.
Right.
And that's pretty hardcore. But I don't feel totally betrayed by Edward Snowden. Not like a Bradley Manning type betrayal. I think those two situations are kind of apples and oranges.
Well, I mean, explain to us where you think that, maybe there is a, quote, right and quote side to this.
Absolutely, yeah. And where I think it's clearly justifiable to what he did being right is the fact that he exposed something that Americans and people in general hold dear, and that is their privacy. And, we do have the Fourth Amendment in the Constitution that prohibits the government for doing unlawful searches and seizures.
Right.
And that could be could be a violation of the Constitution, what the government is doing. Mm-hmm. So him bringing that to light to the American people is kind of a right thing to do, a justifiable thing.
Right.
Does it put our enemies in an advantage now that we have this whistleblower out, that this information is now public? Possibly. And I think that's the biggest argument for treason in this case. But what he told us is something that clearly bothers the American public, and I think it bothers each of us, even not just a little bit, but a lot. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Can you see a justification what he did, or do you feel like this is a totally treasonous act and he should be tried accordingly?
I think it's clear-cut treason.
Okay.
I mean, if I punch a guy in the face and say, well, it kind of seemed like he was going to hurt other people.
Right.
The cops aren't going to say, oh, well, don't worry about it. You punched the guy in the face. And I think it's the same thing here. If there was shady things going on with the NSA, and God knows that's a topic
of course
we've even talked about. If there was shady things going on, scandals, things like that, I believe those would come forward, and the people responsible would be held responsible.
Right.
So for this guy to have classified information, run his mouth completely, illegally, and then bounce out to other countries and all that, I personally say we go and get him, no matter what country he's in, Russia, wherever, peacefully. as peacefully
diplomatically,
as you can, right?
Diplomatically,
and he should be. He should be tried for treason. I mean, that's a clear violation.
Yeah, no, and like he signed, I'm sure, several documents promising not to release that information. So I can see how it will hold up in court. Mm-hmm. But the information he released, knowing that the government is doing what it's doing in the name of security or whatever,
right? Does
the information release bother you?
It does, of course it does. I mean, and the whole trusting the NSA bothers me. Mm-hmm. It does, but it's like for this guy to do what he did, I think he'd have to know exactly everything that the NSA was doing. Right. We don't know what the NSA is doing. For all we know, and they said it, they've protected us from 9/11 times 1,000.
That's not funny.
No, it's not funny, but that's kind of the way they made it seem like. And so
definitely, I agree.
And so maybe they did. Maybe we trust them, maybe we don't. But either way, until we know all of the facts and everything comes forward, you can't be giving away secrets and then running to other countries. Right. Because for all we know, he's giving other countries information.
And he did.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Essentially, he did.
Yeah, and I'm saying right now, as we speak, he could be doing it.
And that's entirely possible. I think, in not only in our country, around the world, the role of the whistleblower is always a strange one because there's injustices around the world. Injustice happens all the time, and these whistleblowers tend to be the people. I mean, they are a whistleblower, someone who exposes such injustices, right? And it's always debatable about where they stand. Mm-hmm. And I think in many cases the whistleblower will be viewed in the long term, historically, right, as a hero. And I'm wondering if that's going to be the case for Edward Snowden. Now, regardless of your opinion about what he did, do you think he will be looked at in a positive life culturally in the future?
I think it depends. I mean, and, obviously this is my personal opinion. I think it depends on the generation gap. Okay. I think if older, I think older generation, they're going to be, Thomas Jefferson shot a man on the White House lawn and got away with it. Right. And I think the younger people, if they care and look at what he did, maybe it could evolve into something where, the younger generation, and that includes our generation, whatever it may be, if they can title it, put their finger on it, look at the facts, and then the NSA comes out, turns out they were doing stuff wrong, I think he will go down in history as someone who did something good for the American cause.
Right. I think he will too, especially with all the press he's going to get, and he's likely going to have a harsh sentence which will only boost his fame more. Mm-hmm. But the other thing I wanted to bring up too is that, did the traitor expose another traitor? Were we betrayed by the government as much, if not more? Because again, like we've been saying, mm-hmm, privacy is an amendment. Right. That's something that we hold and cherish.
Yeah, and that's a great point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's interesting because I doubt the government's going to be, I doubt any heads are going to roll over this program.
Right. Well, and going back to I'd like to keep it simple.
Go ahead.
It's like you punch a guy in the face, and then the cops come and you say, well, I think he was going to hurt somebody.
How many guys do you punch in the face, John? Jeez.
Today?
I hope none. Yeah, no. I have not been punched in the face. I wear glasses, so
none today.
You can't hit a guy with glasses.
None today. But back to the point, it's like you do that, and then the cops come and you say, oh, well, he was going to hurt somebody. And then they do an investigation, and you actually see that the guy had guns or weapons or whatever, and was actually going to hurt somebody. Then it actually comes fully around, and I become the hero.
Right, because you did a preemptive strike sort of thing.
Right, and so it's like, and that's where I stand. And I want to hear your opinion on that. I stand in, I know it's simple and dumb and all that, but that's where I stand, is that he right now is the bad guy.
Okay.
later on down the road, if people care, if people actually look into it, he could turn around and become an icon.
No, and I think he kind of...
Where do you...
Well, I think he kind of already is an icon of sorts, like a Bradley Manning in some arguments.
Well,
kind of thing.
icon. Positive icon.
A much more positive icon compared to Bradley Manning that I mentioned before. But what he did was expose something that reverberated throughout the world. Mm-hmm. And the bigger topic is clearly that program, not so much him. Mm-hmm. And so I do think he's going to have what's coming to him. He's going to get what's coming to him,
right?
In terms of being sentenced as a traitor, and I think there's nothing we can do about it. Mm. I do think he will be looked upon as a sort of hero in future in future context.
Sure.
Kind of like this anti-Orwellian pariah sort of thing.
Yeah,
but I do think that what he did in terms of expose something that is arguably unconstitutional,
right,
is commendable in certain respects.
Okay.
But I will say, he does need to be punished, because we can't just have this culture of allowing anyone to go give away our secrets whenever they feel it's they're consciously objecting.
And we got to wrap up, but I do want to give you the last word on one last question. If you're Obama,
mm-hmm.
or do you think Obama should go and get him?
I think he's better off not getting him in terms of making a big issue of arresting him. I think he should use all diplomatic avenues that are available to him to have him extradited. But I even read something earlier in the newspaper this morning that Obama's almost willing to let him rot. But that I can almost kind of see where you're going with that question. Because then any criminal can just go overseas and just live lavishly.
Right.
But there is something to be said to just let that guy rot in the terminal in Moscow.
All I know is next time, and we got to close up. And next time I do punch a guy in the face, I'm headed either to Moscow or Ecuador.
Well, I hope he.
As long as Obama's president.
I hope it was a justifiable preemptive strike.
It always is,
and you were protecting us.
It always is.
But we want to thank everybody for listening in today. Center left, center right, sports, politics, and everything else. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good night. See you on the next session.